your position is global branded Magnum and category lead luxury ice cream. Maybe you
That's
could
right.
explain a little bit about what your remit, what you have to do in that position.
Sure. So I'm responsible for the Magnum brand globally. So I lead the global marketing team, and I lead the global brand community, which is a cross-functional group of marketers, salespeople, trade marketers, supply chain, research and development. We work together to develop the Magnum brand globally. So we're responsible for the strategic planning of the brand, for the growth, the innovation pipeline. So new products, extensions into new formats, that kind of thing. We have Magnum Pints, which was an extension that we launched around 5 years ago. We extended the brand into vegan products, dairy-free products as well, for example. So the sort of the planning that goes into where do we go next with the brand and how do we show up there. That's sort of that responsibility sits with me, as well as things like the creative design and communication. So of course our wonderful agencies, our wonderful agency ecosystem that we're privileged to work with on Magnum, they do the real creativity, of course, but it's my team's responsibility to to craft that with them. So from briefing and evaluating and assessing and making sure then that works for the brand and for our audience, and putting those things into the marketplace. So it's a kind of all-encompassing role for Magnum. And in addition to that, I've got responsibility as sort of cross ice cream for what we call the luxury ice cream category. So we have a few brands that fit in that space. There's Talenti, which is mainly focused in North America right now, and Grom, which is mainly focused in Europe right now. But these are two sort of examples of what we consider to be luxury ice cream in Unilever.
Okay, thank you. Well, of course, Magnum has a wide global presence. It's a brand which is all over the world, but perhaps it could be interesting if you delve a little bit on the way it is perceived in the different regions of the world. If there are differences, or is it quite an uniform way of seeing at the product and the brand? What are the similarities and differences in that field?
It's a lovely question. We try to be as global as possible, and as local as we need to be, if you see what I mean. So there's an advantage in being a global brand and designing something once and then deploying it everywhere, because you obviously get the economies of scale. So you have one new product, one pack design, one commercial, one launch program, if you like, that you design to be run everywhere in all of our markets. That's the ideal, and it works by and large. It works that way on Magnum. There are exceptions, though. There are differences in certain areas, in different parts of the world. Of course, the brand is most mature in Europe, so about 33 years old in Europe. So already there's been kind of 30 plus years of building memory structures for the brand. It's very well known, has a lot of unaided awareness. People know what Magnum is, so it allows us to play a little bit with especially in our communications and with our new products and this kind of thing. We can play a little bit with concepts, we can play a little bit with advertising ideas, because people understand the basics of what the product is. They know. So we don't need, of course, you always need to show the product and don't walk away from that, but they know what it is, so you can have fun playing with the creative that sort of goes around that. And that's not the case in all parts of the world where the brand is much younger, or even where, say, ice cream consumption as a habit is much lower. So if you think about China, for example, or Southeast Asia, where per capita consumption of ice cream is much, much lower. In some parts of Southeast Asia, it's under half a liter per year, say 300 ml per year. And if you compare that with the number one consumption market, it's more than 20 liters per year. I think it's New Zealand. It's more than 20 liters of ice cream per capita consumed.
They have they have the world record.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But there's a big disparity there between the two
Yeah.
things, and so you can see in one place it's a behavior, it's a habit, it's a kind of, it's part of daily life, or weekly life, let's say. Whereas in other parts of the world that isn't the case. So that has an impact on how we talk to consumers for the type of advertising that we do. So we pretty much try to design a program and deploy it everywhere. And in order to design a program that's relevant and can be deployed everywhere, we work very closely with our markets, the key markets around the world. And as I was saying earlier, we have this global brand community, we call it, but it's a very vibrant group made up of all of the markets around the world that sell Magnum. And we join together every month, and we share, markets share what they're doing. We share a bit what we're working on, and we have chance to sort of compare notes and to build on that, and for markets to say, hey, I really need something that helps me push my chocolate credentials in Indonesia. I've got a competitor that's entering, they're talking a lot about chocolate, so I need a program that helps to just reassure and reestablish these credentials for Magnum in my market. And we may have that already made, we may have that already in our kind of in our work, if you like, already done, or it may be a piece of work that we then need to say, okay, that's we understand that need. Let's dig into that a little bit more, and then let's work on a solution together for you to do that. I think that there's no point in a global team sitting in an ivory tower saying, hey, we're going to do banana ice cream this year, and everyone's going to launch banana ice cream, and it's banana ice cream's the future. I love banana ice cream, by the way, but I never managed to launch a Magnum banana ice cream. But there's no point in somebody doing that, saying that, if banana ice cream is not relevant in the market and it's not what they need. So it's really important as a global team that we are very connected to the markets and therefore the consumers in each individual market, so that we develop programs and plans that are going to be relevant and have the best chance of success when they're executed.
Okay, of course, we are in the Western world. We could say very aware what ice cream means in daily life or in weekly life as a kind of very nice thing to have, of indulgence, or it's pleasure. But other any surprising cultural elements or factors that are having an effect on the product in other parts of the world that perhaps can be surprising from the Western point of view in relation with ice cream, the way of seeing the product, or the way of having it, or the moments or the occasions?
Yes, in fact. So we try to keep the recipe the same everywhere, unless there are some local regulatory reasons why the recipe needs to be different. But generally speaking, the recipe is the same. However, there are some places where Magnum's considered to be too sweet. Maybe China and Southeast Asia are good examples of that, where sometimes they prefer a less sweet profile. So we can take down the sweetness of the product in those places. Equally, they consider Magnum to be too big sometimes. So it's we like that in Europe, we like that in North America, we like that in Australia, but in some parts of the world it's too much, it's too big and eat. So they love Magnum, but perhaps it's stopping them from buying it, or buying it often enough, because it's just too big for them to get through, and then they may feel like they're wasting it. Consumers, they may feel like they're wasting it. So in those places, maybe Magnum is slightly smaller, so maybe less sweet and slightly smaller. That's sort of two ways. And then flavors. We we were talking today about the big launch this year is Sun Lover and Star Chaser. And the Sun Lover product is made of exotic fruit, mango, coconut, passion fruit, white chocolate. I love it. It's a wonderful product, and that's kind of exotic fruit to us in say the northern hemisphere in Europe, but actually in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia and Thailand, though the Philippines, that's not particularly exotic. That's mangoes grow on the street. It's not it's not particularly exotic. So there's differences between there's differences between what's a local flavor and what's a kind of what's considered to be international or exotic in one part of the world is considered to be sort of everyday in another part of the world. We've launched a matcha product across Southeast Asia this year, so matcha green tea Magnum. It's a brilliant product, but it's not necessarily something that would be people like matcha, of course, people like green tea and matcha in other parts of the world, but to put that flavor together with ice cream is a little more unusual, a little more niche potentially. But it's a very big mainstream flavor in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Indonesia, in Singapore. So it's something that we're happy to bring to Magnum in that part of the world.
Okay, but whatever the local nuances, everybody loves ice cream.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing about working in this category. I mean, you can't be sad and eat ice cream. You can't be angry and eat ice cream. It's something that just makes you happy. It's genuinely that moment of pleasure. And we want you to enjoy it fully. So that's something that's quite exciting about working in this category. And also, nobody really needs an ice cream. We need soap, we need toothpaste. There's lots of things we need. We need bleach for cleaning, but we don't need in the same way an ice cream. We probably need that pleasure, but we don't necessarily need the ice cream. So that leads the marketing to be interesting and sort of you have to stimulate desire. You have to stimulate that thought of, yes, an ice cream right now would be great, and drive that impulse purchase, which is always fun, and it means that you're kind of the type of things you can say in your advertising, the way you portray the product and the brand idea are kind of fun and interesting. So I love working in ice cream, honestly.
Okay, maybe for that precise reasons, there are people who says to you, okay, you're the marketing chief of Magnum. That is the easiest job in the world. It's so easy to make Magnum attractive to people. I'm sure it's not so straightforward as it sounds.
Yeah, I have to be careful now who's watching this if I say it's too easy, but I mean, I think we always say on Magnum that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and what we mean is that the people that came before us on this brand and built this brand into what it is today, or say five or so years ago when I took over, and you're then in a very privileged and fortunate position to be building on that. So you're not having to start from the beginning or to turn it around, poor performance or something like that. You're building on a very strong, more than a foundation, but the first however many floors of a beautiful building that's already been built, and you're building on that. And I think there's a responsibility to think about where are the opportunities, what are the things that we could do differently and do better over a period of time, say over a 5-year period, and then what does the future look like, and how do we keep refreshing the brand, keep bringing this idea of pleasure, making it more relevant, bringing it into new spaces, new consumer groups, new occasions, etc. And by doing that, it doesn't feel easy. It doesn't feel like we're just repeating ourselves and doing the same things over and over again. It feels like we are building on something, and hopefully then when my time comes to hand over the reins to somebody else, to the next person, they're as grateful as I am for what came before, and they see then the bigger opportunities that they want to go after and take the brand to the next height. And I love that. I love that thought that it's not a cycle of boom and bust. It's actually a build, a constant build, if you like, and an improvement as we go along. Yeah, that feels very exciting.
Okay, you've been talking about the before of Magnum, and I have a personal curiosity, because I've read two versions about the beginning of the brand. One that it was born in Denmark, and another one that it was born in Belgium. Which is what's the truth on the matter?
This is wonderful. Do you know what? This is such a great question, and we had a hang on though. Before I try to answer the question, let me tell you, there's also a third theory, which is my favorite theory, and it's not true, unfortunately, but if it was true, it would be wonderful. And that is that the former James Bond actor Roger Moore invented Magnum by writing to Walls ice cream and saying, I think you should do a proper choc ice, we call them in the UK, but ice cream with chocolate on top, but with a stick inside, and make it with real chocolate and make it for adults. And I think that would be a great idea. And this claim was made by somebody at some point, and I really tried to find out if it was true, because we could have had a lot of fun with James Bond inventing Magnum, but unfortunately, it's not true. That's not true.
It's wonderful anyway.
Yeah, but it's contentious as well as to who did invent Magnum or where it was invented. And we had a big conference recently of the sort of the leadership team of Ice Cream Global, so the sort of top 250 leaders of the ice cream category from around the world. We all came together for a conference to set the strategy for the next 5 years or so, and to just connect together and be together in one place. And we had a great discussion. So with a colleague of mine from Denmark, who was telling me the story of the guy from Denmark who invented Magnum. And then somebody else came over and said, no, that's not true. Magnum was invented in Belgium, and then started to tell the story. And each of them, by the way, has their evidence. They bring out their phones, and here's the news article. And then somebody came from Germany and said, no, it was invented in Germany. And the guy was a Belgian guy, but he came to Germany and he invented it there, and then he went back to Belgium. So I honestly, I think the truth of the matter is that it was invented somewhere between Belgium and Germany 30 plus years ago. But if my colleague from Denmark was here, he didn't accept that when we were chatting together. And if he was here now, he wouldn't accept that wasn't the case.
Okay. A great idea has many parents, as is the
absolutely.
Usually the case. Well, you have been mentioning in your previous answers things and comments that could be part of the answer of this one. But anyway, I'm going to pose it to you. And would you make if you can make a little balance or a little look over the brand at the moment, which are the strong points, the things that are powerful and positive and are going forward, and what things you would like to improve. If we could call the weak points. I don't know if Magnum as a brand has weak points, but things that can be improved. The good of the brand, or the best of the brand, and the not so good at the moment.
Yeah. So again, I'm very lucky to work on a brand with healthy growth, a very clear idea, organizing thought, consumer idea, communication idea. We are obsessed about the product, first and foremost, product quality, so delivered quality, and always ensuring that we're delivering the best possible experience for our consumers. And that's a cultural fundamental that runs through the whole of the group of people that work on this lovely brand, that work on Magnum, across any function: finance, research and development, supply chain, trade, marketing, whoever you are, retail. So that's a real strong point. We're winning in the marketplace in the sense that the brand is, performing well, continues to grow. We continue to add new users each year, so increasing our penetration. Overall, in general, there are sort of ups and downs in different parts of the world, but in general, we're sort of increasing our users. People like the product and they like the brand idea, so those things are very strong. We measure our brand health using a measure called brand power. And Magnum has the strongest brand power, the highest brand power in most of our key markets, that's an enviable place to be in. But there's also sort of pressure with that as well, because you say, well, the only way is down, so it's like, how do you maintain that and keep building on that and keep refreshing that? That's one of the challenges, if you like. So the strengths create their own sort of inbuilt potential for a fall, if you like, for potential for a weakness. So how do you sort of keep your eyes, the moment we get comfortable and we sit back and think we've got this, it's all going fine, as I think the moment we fall over. So we'll never do that. We're restless for improvement. We're restless for more. We're restless for better ideas. That's exciting. That's really good. I love that. I've worked 5 years on the brand, probably my longest stint on any brand in my career, and I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. I've got plenty of things. I'm working on plans for 2026, and I fully intend to be here to see them through. So I'm really sort of just scratching the surface. So I see opportunities everywhere. I mean, I have to be a little bit careful what I say in terms of talking about the future, what I can say. But I mean, there are opportunities galore, and there are for sure. I talked about penetration. So in our most highly penetrated market, still about half of households last year didn't buy a Magnum. So even in our best penetrated market, we still have 50% more households to go after. So there's no let up, if you like, in that sense. There's always this sense that we've got to keep going. We're only just starting. There's also maybe something about the seasonal nature of ice cream as well, which it means that we as a sort of an internal thing, but we as a group internally, we get ready for like the start of the season, the theoretical start of the season, January the 1st. It's different to other brands. It's different to, say, hair care or something like that, where it's bought kind of fairly constantly through a 12-month period. And yes, you have to be ready with your innovation and your advertising ready in time for the range review in the trade. So you still have a pressure to meet a deadline. But there's something about the ice cream season, which is, if you're not ready there at the start of the season, the cabinets are out, the products are there, the advertising. If you're not ready, you've missed it. You've missed the season. You can't have that. So there's an energy that I think other people that work in ice cream in different companies, I think they'll feel that as well. I don't know. I haven't worked in a different ice cream company, but I imagine my peers in the other companies would feel the same. There's an energy that comes with being ready for the season and having to have everything sort of beautifully ready for that. You can't do too much on the fly, on the go. It has to be prepared and done beforehand. So that's a challenge. And then the challenge is to sort of keep the brand relevant as well. So this wonderful product and brand, keeping that relevant, keeping that exciting, keeping it interesting, because trends change, right? People who ate a lot of ice cream in the past, just because a group of people or a market or a country is known, like New Zealand, for having very high per capita consumption in the past, it doesn't mean they will have it in the future. If you don't tend the garden, if you don't really look after the next generation of consumers, of potential consumers, then what right do you have to hold on to your existing business and just say, oh, okay, they eat a lot here, so it's fine. They eat a lot of ice cream here, so it's fine. No, you need to find ways to kind of keep refreshing your buyer base. I think another challenge is on the how do we keep making ice cream, and for me Magnum, more permissible, if you like. So it's not a healthy product. It's the pleasure it delivers, the happiness, the joy it delivers in that moment is healthy. But the product itself is not something you should eat a huge amount of, right? You shouldn't be eating too many. So it's a treat. It's an indulgent treat. So, how do you make sure that that moment of indulgence is as perfect as it possibly can be for the person? So they're investing first the cost of the product. They're investing to buy their Magnum, but then they're also investing something of themselves to eat the product. So how do you make sure that experience is as perfect as it possibly can be for them? And then how do you find ways to make it more permissible, make it better? We have a product which we launched. It's going very well in Latin America, in Mexico and Brazil, called No Added Sugar. So it's a Magnum product that is made with not with sugar. So we use different sweeteners. I don't want to bore you too much and get too scientific, but you need sugar or a sugar-like substance to make ice cream. So the way they crystallize and form gaps is kind of how ice cream is made.
For the consistency, I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. It wouldn't. Yeah, you couldn't have this kind of this thing, if you like, unmelted if it wasn't for the way the sugar or sugar-like compounds behave. So you need a degree of sugar. It's not just there for sweetness, is what I'm trying to say. It's not just there for taste. It's there to actually make the physical structure of the ice cream. And so No Added Sugar is a great product because it can be more permissible, because yes, it's got a sweetness, it still tastes delicious, but we haven't added sugar to the mix. We made the mix in a different way with a different sweetener and a different compound to make that shape, so that we can form ice cream, and that's a good example. Magnum Minis would be another example. So the mini size products that are all our products we have a cap on sugar and calories that we will deliver. We're not allowed to go over a certain sugar, which is a Unilever ice cream imposed cap, which is great, because that actually creates innovation and thought around how do you deliver amazing indulgence, but underneath this cap. And we're able to do that. The teams in research and development are able to deliver that for us. But Mini allows us to deliver something in a smaller size that has inherently lower sugar and lower calories, so it can be more permissible in more occasions more often. So these are the types of things that we're looking at for the future as well. So the planet as well. So the opportunities around the planet. There's a lot of CO2 that comes from the production of dairy. Cows give off gases at both ends. I understood recently, which is high in methane, which can create carbon dioxide. So there are a whole bunch of things that we're looking at as a company to reduce that. So changing the feed and the way the dairy cows are managed, handled, if you like, to reduce the give off of methane, which is really fascinating. But also to look at a portfolio, balancing our portfolio. We say, well, let's make more ice cream that's dairy free, that's using plant-based dairy alternatives, dairy protein alternatives, this kind of thing. So we have Magnum Vegan, which is made with vegan chocolate, and dairy-free ice cream with pea protein, and it tastes amazing. It tastes delicious. It doesn't taste like you're making a big compromise between this indulgence that I talked about and the environment. So those are the things that are opportunities for us, for the industry, but also for Magnum as we go forwards.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I think Magnum is an icon. I think both the product in itself, I mean, even for the shape, which is absolutely recognizable, and you have taken advantage of it in many campaigns that anyone can recognize the shape of Magnum, and also for the association with pleasure, which has been very consistent and very successful. As far as I think, as I can gather. Well, what do you think have been the milestones in that pace, in that travel from the evolution of the brand to being in the position that it is today, which is quite iconic?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, and I'm always wary of us referring to ourselves as iconic. I always put a line through when I see a press release come to me for for approval, and it says
No,
the iconic.
but
I always, because
okay.
but you.
Blame it on me. It's me
Yeah.
who have said it, not you. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm of course pleased and proud that you say it. Yeah, and I like that. I mean, as you say, in terms of the shape, we have something on Magnum, or all brands have them, but it's something we put a lot of focus on in Unilever, our distinctive brand assets. So what are the things that consumers say that is Magnum, or that is Dove, that is Axe? Of course, the logo is there. The kind of the colors for us, brown and gold, they're distinctively owned by Magnum. But also the shape, like you say, the shape of the product, the crack. So the crack of the visual crack of the ice cream, of the chocolate over the ice cream, and then the aural crack, so the audio sound of the bite. And these are things that are distinctive to Magnum and owned by Magnum, if you like, in the consumer's mind, in our audience's mind, which is wonderful. Pouring chocolate, which we have in all of our ads. So I think that building on these distinctive brand assets, so always trying to include them in all of our communications, means that we're building on the memory structures that people already have. So again, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. The people that came before me founded these ideas, this idea of what kind of indulgence was going to be: thick cracking chocolate over creamy dairy ice cream with Madagascar vanilla in its basic form. That's what Magnum is. And so they decided, well, this is what it will look like, and this is what it will sound like, and this is how we'll always show up with this. The stick is shaped in this way because that's the best way to hold this big thing, if you like, on, but also give you a pleasurable experience as you're eating it. It's not going to be difficult and awkward and with a cheap stick that you're struggling to hold on to. No, it's thicker, it's wider, it's there to sort of support the eating process, and in itself it's a distinctive brand asset. So we just try now to continue to show them. And as you pointed out, we try to use them in a contemporary way as well, in an interesting way. So we with our agency Lola MullenLowe, they've worked with a number of artists where they have an idea, they have a kind of territory and a world that they talk to the artist about, but then they give the artist the shape, if you like, of the product and the stick, and they say to the artist, within this world, within this sort of idea, this visual space, which is in keeping with this artist's style, could you give us an interpretation of what being true to pleasure is all about for Magnum? We work with an artist called Thomas D'Anthony, who did beautiful work for us. Work I would put on the wall in my house, not just because I'm like a Magnum lover, but I think it's beautiful enough to be on the wall in my house.
It indeed was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a great
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
And Brendan Monroe, and again, it's a different artist and a different style, and but these are the things that can. These are the things that you can do when you have distinctive brand assets that have been built over time. They're far from being kind of limiting. They're actually wonderfully liberating, because you could go into all these different kind of visual places and styles, and because the stuff that they're using is distinctive and owned by you, somehow it's a Magnum ad, and I know that's a Magnum ad, even though it's actually a beautiful piece of art. That's super exciting. That's super exciting, I think, for the agency and also for us in the marketing team. Let me talk about a couple of other milestones, if I may. One was before my time. The team that worked on Magnum, it was probably around around 2010, 2011. The team moved the brand from being like a guilty pleasure, if you like. We called it the dark side of pleasure. So it was insular, soulless. I'm having a Magnum. It's so amazing, but it's a guilty pleasure, if you like. I'm almost hiding it. It's me and my moment, and I'm on my own. Which is actually a creatively fertile territory. We did these campaigns which were wonderful and really impactful, like 7 Deadly Sins, and there were 7 different Magnums based on the sins, and 5 Senses. They were evocative and dark and kind of sexy, and just, but it's limiting when you want to go out to the world and you want to go to places like Indonesia or Turkey or China even. There was a need for something that was lighter and more positive, if you like, about and more collegiate, more kind of welcoming and encompassing and proud. We want to be proud of the product. Like we said, one of the problems in society is that people fear the judgment of others. So they hold themselves back from being who they want to be or enjoying the thing they want to have, because they're worried about what other people will think of them, how they will be judged for doing that thing. So without turning Magnum into kind of a, libertine sort of, we don't care what you do whatever you want. We moved the brand from being, about that concern, that worry, that tension there, to being about saying, don't worry. It's, the true pleasure is accessed when you don't worry what other people are thinking, when you go out there and just be your true wonderful best self, and enjoy yourself. So that moment when that happened was really sort of enlightening for the brand. And I'm eternally grateful for the team that saw that opportunity, because actually I think it was very brave. Like I said, it was very creatively fertile in this darker space, because there's tension there, and that tension's always good for advertising and creative, because you really can play in this space where people say, oh wow, this is interesting, this is distinctive, this has kind of got a point of view. And when you go to the lighter side, you have to find that tension. Then in the lighter side, it's harder to find the tension there, but it is there, but it's harder to do that. And the line that came out that was invented by the previous team was for pleasure seekers. Magnum is for pleasure seekers, and we dramatized people seeking pleasure and taking that pleasure and enjoying it, which was wonderful. It was really liberating. The next milestone was to move that for pleasure seekers on to being a bit more active and give it a bit more depth to say true to pleasure. So I'm not just seeking pleasure. I'm going to be be serious about taking that pleasure and be true to it. It's something that I hold. I'm not just going to chase after it. Maybe I get it, maybe I don't. I'm going to be true to making sure that I have that, because it's my right.
Being an advocate of pleasure in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And those things have helped us. Those things have helped us a lot. We also have we run a campaign every year. We call it Cannes, and we're talking about the film festival there, not the Lions Festival of Creativity, but the film festival. Because we have the event at the Cannes Film Festival, but it's not really about film. It's about we launch our new flavor of the year, or our new campaign of the year. We launch it there, and typically we work with maybe a celebrity or some influencers as well. And in that moment, it gives us an opportunity to talk, because it's not an ad, it's not a 30-second or a 15-second ad or an outdoor poster or something like that. We have more time. It's more content. There's more depth, there's more time to explain an idea. So there we can talk a bit more about our idea around pleasure. What does pleasure is always on mean, which is our campaign idea for this year? Pleasure is always on. Sun lover for the day, star chaser for the night. But what does that mean in real terms? How does that show up in creativity, in the music industry, et cetera? So using that campaign each year to give ourselves to build the layers, if you like, of depth in this story about pleasure really helps us. It really helps us to kind of be able to just sort of build on that incrementally year on year. And my favorite, I think it's my favorite campaign of that, was a few years ago when we worked with Iris Apfel, who's a 100-year-old fashion designer. And she worked with us, and she was wonderful to work with and so inspiring. And she's a lady who's, I think anyway, always gone her own way. I mean, you look at her pictures from like the 60s and she's always just been, Iris has been Iris. But there's something about, you reach 100 years old and you're sharing your life and your ideas and your wisdom that she's accumulated over that time so freely and so kind of directly, in a way that's it was just really moving. It was really wonderful, and we were very, fortunate to be able to work with Iris. And one of her lines, which I love, is she says, "If you're not risking, you're not living." And I think that's also true in marketing as well, and in the marketing that we do. We need to take risks. We need to try new things. We need to push ourselves out of our comfort zone, without losing what is inherently working well. We shouldn't get bored of the things that are working well. We in the brand teams, I think, get bored of things faster than our consumers or our audiences do. So we need to hold on to the things that are working.
Okay. Well, you have mentioned some of the beautiful things and beautiful campaigns that you make and carry out, and initiatives, and the big can thing that you do every year, and so on. All the sophistication, all the glamour, all the shiny things that the brand brings with it. But I'm sure that your job is not going to Cannes to the beach every year. There's let's put it, I don't know if a dark side, but a more difficult and day-to-day side that you have to deal with research, with data, with so on. So tell us a little bit about the hardcore part of working with Magnum.
Yeah, I'm honestly one of the luckiest people in the world. I've really got one of the best jobs in marketing. It would be churlish of me to complain about anything at all. Honestly, it's wonderful.
I don't want to. I want you to explain, not to complain. Okay.
Yeah. No, I think that we spend a lot of time looking and analyzing what's working and what's not working. And sometimes you can being in a global team, you're removed a little bit from the reality of the market, from the reality of what's going on in the market. So I love to go to a market visit, to be with the team, to walk in stores. I visited the UK. I live in the UK, but I visited the UK team, and we did an accompanied shop with a consumer. So with a consumer in a store in the UK, and I went around with her, and it was 45 minutes, 1 hour of walking the shop with her, talking about her life, talking about her worries, her dreams, her hopes for her family, what she buys, why she buys it, when she buys it, why she doesn't buy certain things, what she does with it, how she cooks, what's changed. There's a cost of living crisis going on. It's felt acutely in the UK because we have a bunch of other things happening at the same time, sort of macroeconomically in the UK. So this lady was worried, and even if she wasn't necessarily, if she hadn't, the worry maybe was higher than the actual impact, if you see what I mean. There may have been a sense that this thing is actually worse than perhaps it was in reality. If I may, I sensed a bit of that. It's not for me to say, and those moments, and then so that's kind of a real experience, a real moment. So I could read all of the data, I could read reports telling me that this is what's happening, seeing maybe some softening in our market share, seeing some switching from ourselves to the retailers brands, or some the contraction of the ice cream category as people sort of tighten their belts and stop discretionary spend. If I can see those things in the data, fine, but understanding what's happening and trying to do something about it, turn it around, comes from talking to people and understanding that a little bit more in reality, in real life. So what does that actually mean in real terms? And so that was incredibly powerful. That was really useful. One of the most useful, best uses of an hour of my time. Sometimes it's hard when we are developing products and we fall in love with a, a product that we've developed, and it's got an ingredient, and that ingredient doesn't perform as we want it to perform on our factory lines. So all of the testing that we've done, the pilot plant work, this kind of thing, and then suddenly it will go onto a factory line, and in different conditions for different reasons, it doesn't perform in the way you want it to. I don't know, maybe it clumps together, or maybe it has sharper edges and tears some of the packaging or something like that. So then suddenly it's like, whoa, stop, we're about to launch this thing, it's kind of done. What are we going to do? How do we fix this? And in those moments, it's not dark, but it's difficult. It doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of effort from a whole bunch of people and a lot of will to solve the problem, to make it work. And where I'm really fortunate is that people people that I work with, that the people that can solve those problems, like, because it's not really me solving the problem, but the people who can solve those problems have the same passion and desire to deliver an outstanding product as I do, or as the chef who invented the product in the first place does. So we're lucky in that sense, that it's not like, hey, this is my machine and my priority is my machine. It's like, no, this product is the priority, and if there's a problem between the ingredients of my machine, then I'm going to work on that to fix that for you, because we know that this product is the thing that we need to deliver into the marketplace. But they can be dark moments when you're like, oh no, have I got a launch or not? This is this is touch and go, and those things can happen. And then maybe the final one from my side as well, which is maybe a personal one, is I'm always desperately keen that the work we do matters, like that beyond sales and that kind of thing, that people see our work and engage with it. And I love when people, so this year's campaign, I was speaking earlier, Sun Lover and Star Chaser, which tribe are you? Are you a Sun Lover or are you a Star Chaser? And people stop me and tell me, oh, I'm definitely a Sun Lover. No, I'm a Star Chaser. And, some people like me are both. But, my mum will send me messages and say, yeah, my friends text me a picture of her eating her Sun Lover. She's definitely a Sun Lover. This is my mum back in Wales, with her friends. And you can overhear sometimes people in the street, have you tried that new Sun one? And I prefer the Star one. And that, I love that. That is such a, then you feel like the work you're doing is it matters to an extent. And it's standing out in culture. It's becoming part of a conversation in culture, which is maybe it's vain, I don't know, but it's a lovely feeling. It's a wonderful feeling. And then conversely, if that doesn't happen, you feel, well, we didn't get it right this time. We need to go harder next time.
Okay. You live in London?
Just outside of London, yeah. I live in Surrey, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Near Epsom?
In a place called Reigate. It's not far from Epsom. Yeah, it's a little market town in south east Surrey. Yeah.
Okay. Now I was asking just because I love horse racing. That's the only reason.
Okay. Brilliant.
And when you mentioned Surrey, I just thought about Epsom. Okay.
Epsom, yeah. We're not far from there.
Okay. Well, of course, I'm talking about London or the UK if you want. And of course, I do not want you to talk about politics, but how do you feel the country is going through a lot? It's been a change of there's new king, there's a Brexit thing. How do you, and for one which is marketing pleasure as is your position, how do you see the mood of the people and the country in general terms?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sense that I get is that pleasure is more important than ever. Pleasure is interesting because it's as important in good times as it is in hard times. But I think in harder times, then that's when a moment of pleasure, and one as accessible as ice cream pleasure, as a Magnum or even other ice cream, that that treat you had as a kid, we can all remember when the parent, on a hot day, parents would buy an ice cream. It's I think it's really important. I think that's more important than ever. My sense of the country is that it feels as if we are there's a whole bunch of opportunity ahead of us as a country, sort of a possibility of a new beginning, if you like, a new dawn, or whatever. There'll most likely be a general election. I think there has to be one by the end of next year, if I'm not mistaken. And so that will be an opportunity to sort of renew, if you like, even if whatever happens, but it's an opportunity to kind of renew a new government. And as you said, there's a new king, and a new beginning for the UK outside of the European Union. So regardless of what I think of that personally, as an organization, as a brand, Magnum's doesn't take any point of view on these things at all. We're just fully about being available for everybody, and trying to provide pleasure for everybody in the moments when they need it. And yeah, I hope for that to continue, and I hope for some of these opportunities as a country for them to be realized.
Okay, thank you. Well, now back to the brand and back to communication and marketing. Two questions about two things that you have already mentioned. One is the collaborations with celebrities that you do quite often. What's your criteria for selecting one person from the other? What do you like? What do you look for? Sorry, in when you look for a collaboration. And based on your experience, if you have any recipe or advice to people who wants to work with famous people.
I love these questions. And if you look at who we've worked with over the years, Bella Hadid, Cara Delevingne, Jeremy Scott, Iris Apfel, Miley Cyrus. There's no kind of they're so different in terms of age, in terms of their specialty, this kind of thing, and their look.
There's no pattern. Yeah,
there's no pattern, but the pattern is there is for us. The pattern is their attitude. So their attitude is one of them as individuals being fearless in their pursuit of what gives them pleasure. And that's what we look for. We look for people that have that attitude, have that spirit, have that kind of fearlessness, and try to inspire that in others. So, Miley Cyrus, I love Miley Cyrus. She's wonderful, and she grew up in, she grew up in a sort of she grew up famous, right? She kind of grew. She grew up as a child, brilliant child actor in a really popular show. Then she moved to be. She's daughter of musicians. She's the goddaughter of Dolly Parton. She's a wonderful singer, brilliant musician herself, and she changed into a pop princess, and then she had well documented, challenges that happened with her in her life, and then she became more of a, she refined her music to there's a rock side to her, and she just keeps creating, keeps moving on, keeps evolving, and she does it in such a way. She's so unapologetically Miley. And I love that, and I love that spirit, and it was such an honor to work with her on the brand, and to get her to bring that spirit to the Magnum brands and to the Magnum audience. And to answer the second part of your question, so what's the recipe for success in this field? My advice is to try to work with somebody that where there's a clear crossover between your fans, the brand's fans, if you like, the people that you're talking to, you're trying to talk to, and then the celebrities' fans. It may sound obvious, but sometimes you can see anyway yourself as a consumer where someone's just been told to wear this watch or whatever, and okay, fine, they're at the top of their field, and so they're just going to be sponsored by this I'm not picking on any brands, but this company or whatever, and it's just, wait, I just want you to see my company logo next to this high performing sports person or whatever. That's kind of one way of doing it, but it feels hollow. It feels kind of it doesn't feel like there's a strong overlap there between what the fans of that brand might think and the celebrity. So we always try to find a way to have that authenticity with the partnership. So and the way we go about trying to create that is to co-create the idea with the celebrity. So with Miley, we wanted to bring out the product we were launching that year was the billionaire product, the gold caramel billionaire, and it was the idea was pleasure has more than one layer, because there are many layers to that product. So we had a creative idea that Lola came up with, which was Miley in layers, because she's such a layered personality herself, such a layered character herself. So we talked to her about this, and we said we'd love to sort of shoot a music video which kind of captures the layers of Miley and how that goes, and we did that, and she did 3 amazing songs in her style, beautifully shot by a creative director a director that Miley brought, that she really wanted to work with, and we loved him. He was absolutely brilliant, and that partnership was really authentic. And then Miley's fans loved what she'd done, and they were served music content that was original, like new content from Miley is, for Miley fans, is amazing. They love it, of course they do, and it was brought by Magnum, but not in a kind of not in a way it's just, hey, hold the products. There was a partnership there, and so her fans were like, this is awesome, this is great, we're getting something, you're giving us something which is brought by Magnum, so thank you, Magnum, you're giving us some content that we love from this celebrity, but it's done in a way that it doesn't feel like you just wrote a big check, or you forced to do something. It feels like it's a genuine kind of partnership and a creative process, and then it goes out there, and that's what we try to do every time. So pick a celebrity that has the right attitude, the right spirit, the right way of being, if you like, that for themselves, but they can project that for other people as well. They can almost inspire that in other people, and then work with them to co-create something that feels authentic to their fans and interesting and exciting for our fans as well. That's the sweet spot.
Okay. Well, and the second question concerning things that you have already mentioned is the relationship, and who has a Spanish connection would be interesting for our readers and viewers in Spain, is that you have a Spanish agency, which is Lola MullenLowe, which is have a long relationship and fruitful relationship, which is something that it's fun for me, because everyone talks about the virtues of having a long relationship with one agency, but nobody does it. Everyone is making pitches every 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not talk about other people. Let's talk about Magnum and Lola now. Talk about that relationship. How is it? How does it work? What are the reasons for the success?
Yeah, it's it's we're friends, we're family. It's a phenomenal relationship, and um, it's it's been. I think it's more. I think it's much more than 10 years, maybe 13 years that I've been working with them, with Lola MullenLowe. Um, and in that time, we've had a lot of success, and we're very lucky because they're a fantastic agency. They're brilliant. But of course, in that time, there have also been low points. There've also been things that didn't work, and there've been challenges, and there have been maybe some personnel changes, this kind of thing. There have been low points, but the key in those low points, so the problems, let's say, is to identify them, identify the causes, talk about them together, and work out how you're going to fix them. It's like a marriage. You don't expect everything to be wonderful all the time, and in fact, it's when things are difficult that it brings you closer together. How you deal with difficulty is it brings you closer together. If you blame, if you sort of stop talking, ignore, or go off with somebody else, if I can put it that way, in running a pitch or something like this, or you try to inject fear into the relationship, or kind of nervousness into the relationship. I don't believe in that. I mean, it might work short term, but if you put people under a highly stressed and high adrenaline situation over a long, it's good in a short period, don't get me wrong, it's needed, but over a sustained period of time, that's bad, and it's not good for the work. So my belief is in really having really being together as a team, spending time together. So I do it. I get my team to do it as well. We love to go to Madrid to spend time with Lola, but we also have time together in the Netherlands, where our HQ is, and we've been together this week. In fact, we've been together in London this week working on a project for the future. And we've got all our agency groups. So the PR guys were there, the design agency called Sunhouse are there, Lola were there, our media agency, Mindshare, were there, and we have an independent agency that works on kind of experience around the product, sort of product experience stuff, called the Edge Collective, and Kate, who is married to a Spanish person as well. So Kate Garcia, who's the name, she was there as well. And what's interesting is that and I love just sitting back, they all get on well together. This ecosystem is a genuine ecosystem. It's a family. They've all worked on this brand for 10 plus years. They know each other really well. Even if some of the personnel change, some new people come in, they see how it's done. They see how we do things. And it continues, and it gets stronger, and it gets better, and nobody's fighting. There's not a tension of, well, hang on, this is my area and that's your area. We don't always agree. I mean, I think this is great. You don't, we need to talk about it. Of course we don't. We're like a family. We don't agree. We fight. We argue. But nobody's really self-interested. Everybody's trying to do things for the good of the Magnum brand, and they take energy from each other and inspiration from each other. And Lola is a big part of that. Lola is a big part of creating that spirit. The other thing that they do really well in Lola is they open themselves. They don't. So I have direct relationships with the creatives. So I'm talking with creative directors, but art directors and copywriters, and we talk together. We hear from them. And it's not like I'm just speaking to a head of a department in a formal meeting room, and I'm not allowed to go and see anyone else because I'm the client. They don't treat you like that. They want everything is open. Everything is collegiate. They're a small agency, so they don't have this hierarchy and structure and mythology. They're really open. And so they're great in that case. It's great to work with them. You feel part of the process with them, and that's really exciting as well. And the other thing I think they do really well is they fall in love with my problems. So I'm, you know,
Yeah.
my problems are their problems, and isn't that wonderful? You know, that somebody will come and take the weight off your shoulders and say, "Let me look at this. I've been thinking. I've been thinking. You told me about this last week. I've been thinking. Here's 5
Yeah.
slides,"
Yeah.
I'm bombarded then with ideas from them of solutions of things we can do. What about this? What about that? And
Yeah.
and I love that. It's wonderful.
Yeah. They,
Yeah.
they make your life easier.
Yes.
They're supportive.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
And they, you know, they've they've saved us so many times as well. You know, there've been times when we've been struggling with an idea, or we had a campaign that was going to go live and it couldn't for whatever reason, and they'll come in and lean in and, you know, just solve the problem as soon as they can. It's really a part of this. I never have this feeling that I'm just signing the check. We don't, you know, I'm signing the checks,
Yeah.
you know, oh, sorry, we've run out of time and money on this one. I'm done. It's never this feeling. There's always a sense that we sort out the money. That's done at the beginning of the year, and now we're into it. And whatever happens, we're into it, and we'll solve the problems. And you know, they keep it on pushing for more. You know, pushing for more creativity, pushing for more impact, bigger ideas. And yeah, more creatively and if effective and impactful work. So I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky to have this agency ecosystem.
Mm. Okay. Good. Do you have some minutes left? We can talk
Yeah,
a
sure.
little.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Um, well, what do you love most about marketing? About working in marketing? What is your favorite thing? What do you enjoy most about having working in this field? And
Yeah,
by the way, do you wanted to work in marketing since you were a student or the school or whatever? Or do you have other ideas?
I had other ideas. So I first of all I wanted to be a doctor, and then I realised probably I wasn't cut out for this kind of thing. I didn't really like blood or or anything, so
Yeah.
probably it was not the right thing for me. But I was always fascinated by science in school. I loved science and business. Actually, the business and economics were I found interesting. But you know, science was something that um, yeah, it just I don't know why it just was a passion and something I found really interesting. So I studied science at university. I studied molecular biology, biochemistry, sort of natural sciences, and um, without a thought really of what I would do afterwards. And then towards at the end last year of university, then you said, I need to get a job, and everybody was coming to my university, the accountancy firms, the law firms, the consumer goods firms. I said, what is I went to all of the presentations because there were always free drinks and some food, so I said, okay, this is a good thing to do. So I would go to these presentations, and I couldn't see myself in these people. So, you know, wonderful career as an accountant or whatever, or as a lawyer, but I couldn't see these people. Didn't seem like I couldn't project myself forward to be like these people. And then Procter and Gamble came to my university and did a wonderful presentation and a business game, a simulation game of we were launching a product and something like this, and then there were free drinks afterwards, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I could and in all the people that came, I was really inspired. I thought they were brilliant. They were sort of salespeople and marketing people and HR people, and I loved them all. I thought this is for me. Never heard of Procter and Gamble, but this is for me. I want to be in Procter and Gamble. And so I applied there at P&G, and then I thought, well, I better not put all my eggs in one basket, as we say. I should apply. Who is like P&G?
Yeah.
And I discovered Unilever, and I was like, oh, Unilever, okay. I never heard of Unilever. I did some research, and I applied also to Unilever. Just about got my application form in on the last day of it was a paper copy you had to post in those days, and I just managed on the last day to get it in. Anyway, I went through the process of but with both companies all the way to the end with both companies. And then I got a rejection from Procter's and an offer from Unilever to join the grad scheme. And it's funny because I work with people from ex-Procter people now, and a lot of ex-Procter people in my career in other companies. And there's a Unilever type and there's a Procter type, and it's quite nice. And I think I'm a Unilever type. Let's say I am. So I can understand.
Yeah, different tribes, no?
Yeah, and I can a sun lover and a star chaser, and I can understand why I was rejected by one and accepted by the other. I totally get it, and it was the right decision. But it doesn't change how I feel or felt about that wonderful experience with P&G in the process. But yeah, and then I was working in customer development because I thought that I'd worked for Marks and Spencer, and the customer in Marks and Spencer is the center, if you like. So anyone that works with anything to do with the customer in store, of course they have finance, they have HR, they have operations and supply chain and logistics and buyers, and all of these things are all vital. But the people that work with the customer, it's the center of the organization. And that's what I thought. Okay, so the customer guy in consumer goods will be the center of the organization, and to an extent they are. But then I realized when I was in the company that I did a stint in marketing, and I said, I love this. I need to change to marketing, because what I loved was that I would be really in the center, creating something, making something. So a blank piece of paper, and a problem, and you make a solution, if you like, or an opportunity. You make a solution to that opportunity, or something that's going to meet that opportunity. And that is what I love about marketing. So we whether it's a new product, a new brand, a new flavor, or fixing something that's already there. It encompasses the sort of the science of life. So why is it going wrong? What really understanding, what's happening with the consumer demographics, with pricing, with the P&L of the thing. I need to put more advertising. Normally it's more media. I can't afford it. Why? There's something wrong in the P&L. The price is too low. We can't charge a higher price because consumer doesn't believe that it's the value. Okay, so what do we do? So these problems are mainly scientific, but often the solutions to them are artistic. So it's often about psychology, and it's about creativity, and it's about sort of finding a way to motivate somebody emotionally, to make them buy, emotionally, if you like. And I love putting those two things together, the art and the science, to create a solution for a problem, or to meet a need or an opportunity that hasn't been met. So that's why I love marketing, and that's why I love brands and this type of work.
Mm-hmm. You've also had a stint at L'Oreal and PepsiCo, no? And what memories do you have? Nice memories about being there?
I left Unilever after I did as a graduate scheme at Unilever. I had a few years working as after the scheme, working in various roles, and then I decided to look around outside. I was really attracted by L'Oreal because of the brands. I worked in hair care. I had hair at the time. I worked in hair care. And that's for L'Oréal Paris in the UK, the LV business, the shampoo and conditioner hair care sort of system that they had. That's the closest thing they have to a FMCG product, if you like, sort of price point and sort of rate of sale, frequency of purchase wise. And I was responsible for the relaunch of this, and I loved it. It was amazing, and I was going into a category that I didn't necessarily have huge affinity for, if you like. I had hair and I washed my hair, washed it out, but it wasn't as if I was, really. Whereas if I worked, potentially I was working with pot noodle and snacks and things like that in Unilever, I had affinity to these products. I was marketing to myself, if you like. In hair care, I was marketing to somebody else, and that's great as a marketer, because then you really know. You don't make assumptions. You make assumptions, but you make much more informed assumptions. And you have to check what you're doing. You have to check, is this right? Does this make sense? And you have to really put yourself into the mind and the shoes of your target consumers and your audience. Figure out who they are and what they do and how they live. And read what they read, watch what they watch. And I love that, because it's, again, that's sort of taking you out of your, here I am, it's me and I market to me, and it's putting you into a different space. And perhaps you see opportunities that you wouldn't see if you were just felt as if you were marketing just to yourself. So that was a wonderful thing that I learned there. And it's a very commercial organization, so it was very sort of focused on numbers, delivery, performance, and I learned a lot of those, I really learned my consumer marketing skills in Unilever, and then the sort of performance marketing skills in L'Oreal, which was great. The route up in L'Oreal was to go to Paris or New York, and it wasn't really, at that time in my life, I wasn't really ready for that. So I moved to PepsiCo at that point, and PepsiCo is another brilliant business with fantastic people. And I worked in their juice business, which they've hived off now, but the Tropicana juice business. And I worked 4 years on the Tropicana brand, and I absolutely loved it. And again, when you have tenure on a brand, you inherit a plan, right? So you execute that plan, then you start to build a plan for the next year, and then maybe you see half of it, and then you go off normally, and you're after 3 years you're on something new. Whereas when you do 4 or more years on a brand, you inherit a plan, then you have your own plan, then you beat your own plan, then you beat the next one, and then you build the next one. So there's something about that time, and seeing the brand evolve and grow and really become a sort of staple in the UK. That was a wonderful time. And PepsiCo is a brilliant organization for execution as well. So a fantastic, if you launch something in PepsiCo, the machine gets behind it and it's everywhere. You really get distribution fast and good quality. And so if your product's good and your marketing's good, don't have to worry about getting it into store and getting it looking good and standing out in store. Those guys are a machine and really wonderful. They're also there's also something I think is personal view. I hope they wouldn't mind me saying. There's also something in the psyche of the organization. They're a challenger. So Pepsi Cola versus Coca-Cola. There's the age-old battle, if you like, the challenger battle. And so there's an organization is infused with a challenger mindset. So there's a restlessness, there's an energy, there's a fight in the organization to win in the marketplace, which a lot of businesses have. But when you have that sort of eyeball to eyeball competitor and you're the challenger, you think a little bit differently. You think you're in a street fight, let's say, and that's how you think. So there was a wonderful energy that came with that as well.
Okay, that's interesting. And now for the negative side, not of your job, but of the marketing world, if you want, something that you feel that is a statement that you hear repeated once again and again and again, and do you feel are not true? Mantras that do you feel are not real, outdated practices that people carry on doing, things that you really don't like or feel that they are outdated and feel that they shouldn't be done or said anymore about marketing?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have to be so careful here.
Be careful. I don't want you to be uncareful. Be careful if you want, but give me your point of view.
So I find that as an industry we can be very we can fall in love with fads a bit too quickly, and we can forget. It strikes me that as an industry we're not very good at, but we're very keen to forget and throw away everything that has made the theories of marketing, of brand management, of how brands grow. This wonderful book. The empirical evidence can be compelling, but it's okay. We'll put that to one side because now everything's TV is dead, and we're going to go to digital, and everything's going to be digital, and I always feel when we're doing this, I always feel to myself, I don't think there's a digital revolution and transformation happening, right in front, and there's never been a more exciting time to work in marketing, and the pace of change will never be as slow as it is today, and it's already sort of mind-bogglingly fast today. So I think there's opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. But what I always try to do is to filter out the stuff that says this is dead, or this is dead, or this is dead. Things aren't dead. You ultimately, we're in the business of demand creation. So we're in the business of stimulating the desire to purchase, and the way in which there may be more media channels now, and they may be slightly different, but ultimately you're still marketing. You're still trying to convince somebody you're still trying to make somebody feel something and convince them to buy. And so I'm always I always shudder when someone says, the 30-second TVC is dead, or outdoor advertising is dead. It's all about mobile. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's true. It may be that there are more channels now, and you need a greater mix of channels, and you need to think about, what does long form advertising do for your brand with short form? What's the role of kind of more performance marketing versus sort of longer form brand advertising. The two things need to work together, and I don't believe that the fundamentals have changed. The fundamentals of we're dealing with human nature. Human nature fundamentally hasn't changed so much that we that we now need to throw away all of the sort of the wonderful science and learning of our profession of the last 75, 100 years. All that needs to go out of the window because there are some new media channels available now. I think fundamentally human nature is the same, and that these channels exist because of our greater need to connect and feel something and feel part of something, and brands can play a role in that. And brands that want to play a role in that in a positive and active way will I think will work. So when people say things are dead, that for me is a nonsense.
Okay, now we're going to the last question, Ben. But before that, thanks a million. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you have had a good time, as I said at the beginning. And the last question is one we pose to every one of our interviewees, and it's not a question. It's asking for a recommendation. Whether it be a book, a film, a series, whatever, something related to work or not, something that has given you pleasure, and that's the word. That's the word to use here, talking about Magnum, and you want to share with our viewers and readers.
Yeah, great. What a great question. Book-wise, I would recommend Go Luck Yourself by Andy Nairn. I actually have a copy here on my desk, so let me just I can show you that. Go Luck Yourself. And this is just a great sort of Andy Nairn is a strategy guy from I think the agency is Lucky Generals in the UK, and this is just kind of his thoughts on how you go about getting more growth for your brand, basically, but sort of making your brand more relevant, making your brand stand out a little bit more, making yourself ultimately it's about making your brand more successful. But he's written it in a really nice style, and it's full of great sort of evidence and anecdotes. I think that's brilliant. And then Richard Shotton is the other one who writes brilliantly. So his latest book is called The Illusion of Choice. This one here, and this is a great book. This is about basically why we buy, and how. I like it because it's sort of it talks more about the psychology, if you like, the biases towards why purchase decisions are made. And I love this idea that most things are, we talk about it in Unilever as being Homer Simpson versus Mr. Spock. So the Spock part is the logical, rational. I've really thought about this purchase decision. I'm here at the fish. I'm really thinking about it. I'm going, versus the Homer Simpson, which is just autonomous. I'm just doing it on kind of autopilot and sort of system one, system two. And of course, most of the time, because of, again, human nature and the way our brains work, our brains try to make life easy for us. So they try to get us to operate autonomously as much as they can, so that we can spare brain power for the important things. And so, most of the time you buy on autopilot, as much as you might afterwards say, well, it's all these rational reasons that I bought this, is actually you're buying on autopilot. And so, we think about that a lot in our brand management and how that works. And Richard's written a great book about that, Richard Shotton. So those would be my two books that I'd recommend. Blog-wise, Scott Galloway's, is it No Malice? Scott Galloway that does a weekly email shot. I love it. I think it's brilliant. I love reading Mark Ritson in Marketing Week, and he normally posts on his Twitter channel or whatever. He will post his article and you can read it for free. It's brilliantly provocative and lots of swearing, which I wholeheartedly love and agree with. So he's a man that speaks to me directly, I think, with his style and his attitude and his prose. So love all those things. If I could say a film, it's got nothing to do with marketing, but The Beautiful Life, like La Grande Bellezza, is my favorite film. There you go.
Yeah. Okay, that's lovely. That's a lovely film. Great. Ben, as I said, thank you very, very much. It's been a pleasure. And I hope it is, as I said, a good beginning for your weekend.
Yes, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I hope you can edit.
No need to edit anything. It has been fascinating, really, and most entertaining and a pleasure, and very informative too. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.